Rumors are a natural part of the game industry. Every week another insider claims to have heard murmurings of some new or cancelled project, or a port of some popular game to another system. Most of the time they turn out to be completely made up, based on false information, or in some rare cases, true. I never really give credence to rumors. We've all been through enough E3 cycles and fake Smash Bros announcements to last a lifetime, and even if they end up being real, they don't really excite me until I see an actual announcement. Unfortunately, there is a franchise near and dear to my heart that can't seem to escape the rumor mill. It feels like every 6 months there's something new, and it's gotten to the point where I see the words Silent Hill appear in headlines and groan. The issues with Silent Hill have been talked about to death. I've done it myself in videos, but ever since the disastrous fallout of Silent Hills and PT being removed from the PlayStation Store, the franchise has been even more lifeless than before. So, when rumors started emerging again a few months back about a potential new Silent Hill project, I didn't give them much thought. But one of these games in particular is touted as being a remake of Silent Hill 2 by Layers of Fear and the Medium developer Bloober Team, and just this week, more and more information has been pointing towards it being possibly true. This time, it's different. This isn't just a new entry or a conspiracy theory that Hideo Kojima is secretly still making Silent Hills. This is about resurrecting what is, in my and many others' opinion, one of the greatest games of all time. I can accept a new mediocre Silent Hill entry. I'll even give them a chance. But while I can sit and laugh at the girl with Minger written on her cheek, I can't laugh at the idea of a Silent Hill 2 remake. Not just a port or remaster, but an entire remake by a third-party studio with only a tangential relation to the original developers. It got me thinking about Konami, the Silent Hill license, and the obsession this industry has with remakes.
See? I'm real.
Remakes are not exclusive to video games, but they have a very different purpose in this medium than they do in others. Movies, for example, tend to last a few decades before being remade, and the usual reasons for doing so are either a misguided attempt to appeal to a new audience, or to take a different approach to an already established story. Despite releasing in 1979, there's no reason to remake Ridley Scott's Alien, because even being over 40 years old, it stands the test of time. However, with video games, a relatively young medium, some games don't even last 10 years before being remade. This has a very simple explanation. Video games are tied to the technology that they were developed for. Black and white films from the 1940s have been transferred from physical reels to digital information, meaning you can watch Casablanca whenever you want on whatever piece of technology you choose. Games don't have that accessibility. A game released on the N64, unless it's remastered and released on a later system, isn't readily available to play anywhere outside of emulation. The people defending remakes of classic games claim that this accessibility warrants and justifies their existence. Here's my issue with that. Remaking a game doesn't fix that accessibility, it only buries the original further. Silent Hill 2 has already experienced this problem in its lifetime with the 7th Gen HD collections. There are currently 3 major releases of Silent Hill 2, the original PS2 and Xbox versions, the PC port, and the PS3 360 HD collection. The PC port is still fully playable today, and if you're willing to spend 5 minutes installing the fan patch, it's a wonderful way to experience one of the most important games of all time. No one is asking you to go out and buy a PS2, pay for an expensive copy on eBay, find an old CRT TV and play it as it was released. All you need is a half-decent PC to get it running. The HD collections on PS3 were Sony's attempt to reintroduce older franchises to new players, and while they weren't all perfect, none of them held a candle to the awfulness of the Silent Hill collection. Not only was it based on older, buggier builds of the game, but they also fundamentally changed the game by completely re-recording the voice acting. This version of Silent Hill 2 is not the same as the original, and what was supposed to be a way for newer players to experience the series turned into a laughingstock. So when I hear that the game will be fully remade from the ground up, I ask myself this: is that even Silent Hill 2 anymore? There are a handful of remakes that have improved on or completely replaced their original counterpart, and another classic horror franchise offers a perfect example. 2002's Resident Evil Remake was released only 6 years after the original game was released on the PlayStation, and while that seems very quick, you have to remember that there's a major difference in technology between those releases. Did RE Remake replace Resident Evil? In some circles, it did. I imagine there are many fans who only only played the remake, and as someone who has played both versions multiple times, it's an extremely faithful adaptation with some interesting changes. They are fundamentally the same game deep down, and both offer different enough experiences that I would argue any big horror fan should play both versions to see for themselves. Compare that to the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, released 20 years after their original games. Are they good replacements for their originals? I would argue absolutely not. Beyond just the graphics, the remakes feature entirely different gameplay, altered storylines, and tons of little changes to go along with them. They're fantastic games, even if 3 left a little to be desired, but the fact remains that they aren't even close to resembling the original PS1 titles. If we're as worried about retaining these games for players who never got to experience them at the time, then why are we changing them so drastically? That contradiction alone proves why this argument is flawed. There are two outcomes for a Silent Hill 2 remake. 1. The classic remake approach, where the game will largely stay the same with some new additions and upgraded graphics. Or 2. The modern remake approach, where it may as well be an entirely new game. While the first option may seem good, the thing you have to remember is that the Resident Evil remake was created by a lot of the same staff that made the original. The reason Remake feels so respectful to the original is because they were both directed by Shinji Mikami, whereas Bloober Team isn't made up of ex-Team Silent employees. Unfortunately, if the rumors are to be believed, the second option may be more likely, and the thoughts of these writers adding endings to a game as complex as Silent Hill 2 terrifies me more than anything. There is absolutely a place for remakes in this industry. Some games haven't aged well, others are impossible to run on modern hardware without intensive mods. But Silent Hill 2 isn't one of them. How have we gotten to the stage where The Last of Us, a game from 2013, which is already playable on the current console generation, has been remade? What is the point of that remake other than being able to sell a popular game again for full price? Even if you were to create a painstakingly accurate recreation of a game, why not just remaster the original at that stage? Unless you need to change something on a fundamental level to make it work on modern systems, I'd take a HD remaster over a complete remake any day. This is without even getting into the whole Bloober Team aspect of the story, which I've purposefully avoided up until now. I'm not a fan of their work, nor do I really know anything about them besides some of their more lackluster titles, but I do know a lot about Silent Hill. After Silent Hill 4, the creative team behind the series was severed and moved to different projects, while the license was passed from studio to studio, often ones with little to no credibility, who pushed the franchise into mediocrity. This wasn't entirely their fault, after all it was Konami's decision. This was the state of the franchise up until Silent Hills got everyone's hopes up, and was subsequently taken out back and put down. No, my problem isn't specifically with Bloober Team. My problem is with the concept of remaking Silent Hill 2 at all. It's a deeply personal game. It tackles heavy themes in a way that other media could only dream of, and it's remained extremely important 2 decades later. Every moment in Silent Hill 2 is purposeful. Every camera angle, monster design, line delivery, it all exists for a reason. Team Silent were masters of their craft, and the thoughts of another studio attempting to replicate their work is baffling. If you really must put Silent Hill 2 on modern hardware, then give it the treatment it deserves. Port the original in its entirety, and let people experience it, jank and all. Not even I've claimed the original is perfect, but where its controls may have aged, its message and story hasn't. Silent Hill 2 cast a long shadow over the franchise, a shadow that it has desperately chased for years. Remaking it isn't just completely pointless, it's unnecessary. Silent Hill 2 will always exist. It will continue to be an important game, but a remake like this runs the risk of stomping all over one of the most important horror games in history. Thanks for watching. This was just a quick video in response to all the recent news and rumors, and it's actually adapted mostly from an article I wrote a few months ago on my Medium page. If you're interested in seeing some more short videos like this, then let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear my thoughts on other games in a short format, my Medium is in the description. Anyways, I'm gonna go get back to work on my next big video that's coming up. My socials, as always, are down below, and I'll see you again real soon.